Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver and my mission is to make you excited about organic Japanese green tea. And today what we're going to talk about is actually a problem which some of you might know, and is about the clogging of your teapot through the tea. So when you dive into the world of organic Japanese green tea, you have a lot of different varieties, and one kind of in the last time quite interesting, and especially becoming more and more interesting to me, is the fukamushi, the so-called deep steam tea. This is actually a great tea because it is very sweet, it is very nice, and also you can get some quite affordable teas for a very good price. But the problem is that due to the longer steaming which is done or which is applied on these tea leaves, they get a little bit more brittle. Like for example, I have here a azatsuyu. So this is a azatsuyu. I just show it to you closer. So this is a tea which is quite small, quite easy to brew. But the problem is that the tea leaves, they get so small that with the normal sifter it can become quite a challenge. So for example, I brought here my black clay kyusu, where you can see there's a sifter at the bottom, at the end here inside, and it is a built-in sifter. So this is something which is actually working pretty well for a sencha, which I can use without any problems for normal or asamushi, futsumushi, kind of normal steamed or short steamed tea. But when I go into the fukamushi, can quite be a challenge. But I was reading a little bit on the internet, and some people exchanged also about this topic, and I saw two methods which you can actually apply if you only have this kyusu. And then on the third one I will dive also in another option which you can get to have not the clogging tea of, or the tea pouring, which can be a result of the deep steamed tea. So for this I just want to go into the 5 grams of my azatsuyu here. Azatsuyu, an early budding cultivar, around 5 to 7 days earlier than the Yabukita, which is the most famous one in Japan. And as it is fukamushi, this tea has only the need of being steeped around 45 seconds. You already have a beautiful tea. So let's go into the first version, what I heard about. So the first thing I read on the internet is actually when you pour the tea nice and smooth, you should be able to get the water kind of above the tea leaves, and then the pouring should be okay. So let's try this directly out. I think the 45 seconds, they are more or less gone. So let's try this. So this is a little bit difficult because you need some kind of a certain speed to just get the water in. But somehow it seems to work out. You just have to look that you're always right enough, and you see in the end it starts to clog a little bit, so you have a little bit of drops, but working quite well. Let's have a look. Okay, so I guess first one will be good, but now you see already that the tea is clogging completely the holes. So for first steeping worked very well. I assume for the second one here you will have some problems just to get the tea out. Let's have a look. Azatsuyu is a very grassy tea. I like it a lot. So let's just, for experiment's sake, see if we get out the water quite easily. So second brew is clear. I have to just, and yeah, it still seems to work. Let's have a look. So somehow you're able to still pour it out. So okay, I would say this is a variant you definitely can use. So kind of slow pouring when it starts clogging, or when you have a tea which might clog, then just do a short pouring. The problem a little bit about the short pouring, or kind of the slow pouring is that you actually, when you are too slow, the water can start to run down your kyusu. So you really have to take care. So you can see that the water starts to, this is quite a good kyusu because it is cut off here on the side. But if you have one which is round, the water will start to run down your kyusu and you will have it beside your cup. But you can see that by holding down the leaves, it seems that the leaves which are in front of the hose, they're not so thick, so they're not able really to clog. So quite a good way to do it. But you really need a kyusu which is nicely cut here to prevent the water from dropping on your table or going beside your cup. Good. So this one, thanks a lot. I was reading this up. Thanks a lot for the tip. This is something I'm happy to give on to you. And now, another version which I saw is that you actually do short but fast pouring to prevent from clogging. So let's see if I can do that. Just like hop, 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 hop. Good. And then you get your tea. Problem, you can maybe already see it. I have some water going beside. So this definitely needs some training. So I would say first one working pretty well. Second one, you need some skill and you need to train yourself a little bit, so the first times it will not work too well. But also here, it seems to work, but as you can see, the leaves are really now just in front of the hose. So, and what is also a little bit a negative part, you really see below here you have some water in, which is not so good. You should get out all of the water, so I would need to really try to loosen all the water out of the leaves, and this becomes more and more difficult. Good. So first one, good. Second one, you have to be a little bit more skilled to do it. But actually there's an easy and a very easy thing if you buy a green tea teapot, a kyusu. So this one is a pretty beautiful one. It's a very good one for sencha, but it has a little bit its limits in when you do a fukamushi, so the clogging happens. Now with these two techniques I could prevent it more or less, so this was pretty nice, but still I did a photo shooting on the weekend and I really saw that the clogging happened and I really had problems to get the tea out. So when you want to go a little bit more into fukamushi and you want to discover a little bit more this tea, it's really good if you have an adapted teapot for this. And you can actually buy pretty cheap ones. I like this one here. Here we talk about between $25 and $30 what you can buy. And what you just have to look at is actually that you have a built-in sifter which goes around the whole teapot. Or you get a sifter which is quite big, so you can also have a sifter which is just a little bit bigger and it goes really down on the floor of the teapot, creating a little bit of space between the opening where the water comes through and this part here. So then you have the water which can also come from the sides and pass the tea which is clogging here in the front, but it can pass through the sides here and here through the mouth and then go out of your teapot. So this is actually a pretty cheap kyusu which you can buy, and you can really see it's all around, or the whole way around. So this is a super simple tea to do, and or teapot to do the fukamushi with, and definitely a good investment if you just want to have a little bit of a broader experience and you don't mind the metal. It is said that the metal is not the optimal way, because some kind of friend of mine, he's a tea sommelier, and he told me that what can happen is that some of the parts of the tea can stay in the sifter, and then when you make a next brewing, so some days later, and you just have kind of sun-dried tea leaves, they can make the tea a little bit more bitter. To me, it didn't happen yet, and you just have to rightly clean, or kind of clean the teapot in a proper way, and then you will not have this problem. So my suggestion to you is, if you want to go a little bit more in this super green teas, then you definitely should have in some way a good full built-in sifter teapot. Start with this one. They are often quite cheap. This one here is between $25 or $30. You can get one of these in your tea store quite easily. So there are absolutely options which are affordable without that you have to spend a lot, and you can also brew easier essentia with it. There's no problem. While with this one here, the fukamushi is a little bit of a hassle, but as I said before, you have two techniques. I think this easy slow pouring is definitely a good way to do it, but if you want to have just convenient and simple, maybe really try to get a full built-in sifter like this one here, then you definitely will have no problem. Good. This was this short daily for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you have a question, please do not hesitate, ask me anything. I'll be happy to answer it, and I guess I talk to you soon. Bye bye.